I'd like to welcome everybody that's here to the Municipal Services and Environmental Sustainability Committee meeting. We do have myself as Chair, Gail Larson, and we have a Vice Chair vacancy, so it's just Councilor Cohen and I, and she is the member on this committee. And so that is our roll call for the evening. We have Mayor Petrus has joined us. Thank you very much. City Administrator Reese is here. Thank you very much. And John Barber will be speaking to us later. Councilor Posh is here. Of course, Director Klinkscale, Councilor DeWitt Foy, and President of Council Kuda are here in the room as well. So, and Clerk Ballister. So I'd like to start. Director Klinkscale, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for hanging around. We do want to talk about the strategy that you're going to implement once the snow is all gone in terms of removing all these leaves that are underneath there. Please.
So as soon as the snow clears up, we plan to get back out there and start back picking up leaves where we left off. We did get through the first and second round. As you guys may recall, we did start leaf collection early last year. We started mid-October instead of November 1st. We were able to get through 2 rounds. It took us until December 5th to get through those 2 rounds. And maybe that last round after Thanksgiving, we were basically collecting that in light snow. We pretty much have had snow on the ground since Thanksgiving. Yeah. So as soon as the snow clears up, we will get back out there and collect the leaves from the fall, and we plan to continue on with our scheduled spring collection, which starts, I think, March 30th this year.
Is all the equipment up and ready to go?
We're ready to go as soon as the snow clears. Yes.
Do you put out 2 crews when you do that, Director Klinkscale, or you have 1?
Well, in the spring and in the fall, for normal collection, we have 2 crews out. To pick up this residual collection from the fall, we'll probably just have 1 large crew out because we still have half the street department working at midnights because of snow removal. Mm-hmm. And they'll be on that midnight shift until mid-March. So we'll have employees from other departments assisting in picking up the leaves that were left over for fall collection.
Anybody have any questions about that? So thank you, because it's something that's weighing on a lot of people's minds.
As soon as the snow is gone, we'll start getting those calls. So we have made sure that all of our equipment is up so we can hop right on top of it.
And you'll be asking comms department to keep that map
we'll
that's
put that
out
back
there,
up, yes,
so that we can see where the crews are at. Yes, President Kuda.
Thank you. Director, if people have already put leaves in bags because they didn't think the 3rd round was going to happen, is there anything we can do about that?
We will probably have the street department just pick those up along with the regular collection, with the loose leaf collection. When they come across bags, we'll grab those as well.
Okay, thank you.
But they go to a different location than just loose leaf, right?
No, they'll all be going to the dairy.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
We've talked, thanks to Mayor Petrus for being open to different ideas, looking towards even next fall at different ways that we might collect leaves. Can we talk a little bit about, or just, are we looking into different equipment, and maybe we'll have a demo, but we are exploring different ways to pick up leaves for the fall.
Yes, we are. We are looking at that trackless leaf collector, and we're going to demo that in the spring, in April.
That's great. I'm very excited about that.
If I could, right now we're working on
Snow.
Exactly. Pulling together some information to provide to council, along with recommendation, and you can see that and pick and choose from that what you think is appropriate from a budgetary perspective. But I think that after we've had a chance to wrap that up, which I think we were talking about like within the next week and a half maybe, we'll be able to present something to council for your consideration. And then I think after that, we'll have some more time that we can dedicate to, thinking about leaf pickup and what we might be able to do. But again, to reiterate, there will be a demo end of spring with this vendor with the trackless leaf loader. They have a number of clients that they're going to provide a demo to, and that was the soonest that we could do that. But, we're happy to include council members in that demo so that you can see for yourself how it might work.
Was that on the 2026 budget?
No,
Is this something that we're looking at as a potential assistant to keeping this program going more efficiently, I guess you would say?
This was something that I had actually suggested between getting elected and being sworn in, to assess what the cost is, to think about, would we want to do this? Certainly if something's $500,000, that's a lot different question than $50,000 piece of equipment. So I think this is the first step towards perhaps budgeting for 2027. And also 5-year capital, as we embark on that, we plan to.
Quick question, Chair.
Go ahead.
For this snow removal plan recommendations, would that all be for 27 capital budget? Or are you anticipating we may be able to allocate funding for this year to have it ready for next winter?
Yeah, I think that it's worth considering a budget adjustment.
Sure.
There are certain areas in the budget where I'm trying to, I'm grateful that council allocated one thing or another, but looking for opportunities for savings so that maybe we might be able to reinvest that into something else in preparation for next year. A lot of these things have long lead times.
Right.
And I think that it would be smart for us to consider, putting it in order sooner than later for some of these things. Some of the other things like salt, like we can more easily do that, but some of the trucks, there's quite the lead time.
Okay, good to hear. Thanks.
we have a tandem truck that we ordered a year and a half ago that we still haven't received yet.
Yeah.
So there's a long lead time depending on the type of equipment.
And I just want to take this opportunity to say I have heard from so many people in the last 2 to 3 weeks thanking Public Works and the city and the mayor for all the improvements that we have made. I mean, it's been really hard because we were stuck with the infrastructure that we have, but even the small improvements have made a very, very big difference, I think, for residents. So I just want to thank you, Director, for all of your help with that and leading the ship there.
Just like to reiterate my appreciation for Director Clinkscale and the Public Works Department. I saw for myself when I was out there a few Sundays ago how hard the team was working. Whenever I was in the service garage, there was a spirit among the employees that they were working towards like a greater goal. They were working so hard. A truck came in with like a messed up wheel. They were trying to get it off, get it back out there as quickly as they could. They were working really hard on the side streets. They attached plows to 6 of the pickups, trying to do everything that they could, especially whenever there was that salt shortage. They were doing everything that they could with what they had. And I was really proud of them and really grateful for all of their hard work.
Pit team at a, race.
Yeah. So.
And what you guys should keep in mind, and what the mayor did see when he was out, is that whenever we have crews on the road, we have a support team in our vehicle maintenance department. So that when something breaks down, we try to get it right back on the road as soon as possible.
It was really impressive, and I think that if you could see it, you would be really proud of all of their work.
We were proud without.
Thank you for that leadership. Councilor Posh.
So I think one of the takeaways is, I think there's always been a lot of hard work done here. I don't think anybody's questioned that, but what we see right now is better communications through the city and some tweaks that have been done that have made a difference. And I think people appreciate that. I mean, there was a time when there was no salt and things were not great. But I would think a year ago, we'd be getting calls as council people complaining about it. There was an absence of calls. I mean, people were, I don't want to say satisfied with the work, but they understood the dilemma of what your team was dealing with. So that communication was absolutely, I think, critical. I think people just felt like we're out of salt, or close to out of salt, but we're not going to do the side streets, but it's okay. We can get through this, and they did. And I'm proud of the citizens, really proud of the staff.
Yeah, I think with all the media coverage about the salt shortage and everything, people understood that it's just not Cleveland Heights going through this.
Yeah.
Okay, unless there are any other questions about the leaves in the snow, I had a suggestion from Susan Miller, who's a resident, and she thinks about the homestead discount program that some of us qualify for because of our income level. And the first thing that happens when you're in that program is you fill out an application for the county, so you get a homestead discount on your property taxes. Then you can go to the city, and I did notice, Director Cleanscale, there are 2 different applications on there for affordability for, let me see what they were called. 'Cause I was looking at the website today.
With me.
Is that the heap? Is one of those the heap, like the heating?
No,
There's a homestead program and there's an affordability program.
yeah. And homestead sewer and one for sewer affordability. So that's what they're called on the website. Why are there 2 separate applications that people would need to fill out for that? What do the 2 different discounts provide?
I think that, and I didn't look at the website prior to coming, I wasn't sure what the question was. I assumed that the question was, once someone qualifies for the homestead program with the city of Cleveland or the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, I thought Susan's question was, why did they have to go through and get qualified through the city's program? And what happens is, once you are qualified by the sewer district or the Cleveland Water Department, all you have to do is show proof that you've been qualified and just fill out our application. We don't go through checking or anything like that. We just assume that Cleveland Water and the Sewer District have done their job, and if you're on their program, we'll put you on our program.
What her concern is that for a lot of the people who do qualify for the county property tax homestead discount, that those people, if they could be considered as qualified for our discount programs as well without having to fill out an application, or if there was just a letter they could send. She's looking at the logistics of people who, the form for the property tax homestead discount is very simple and straightforward, as are the 2 applications for the city, but she's wondering, like, it was mentioned in our meeting prior that it was in Councilor DeFoy-Witt, where Director Shantz has a list of 800 people who I believe are county property tax homestead qualified. So they're getting a property tax discount. Could we think about those people would then be qualified for our programs without putting them through the process of filling out additional applications? That's what her question is.
They have to fill out an application with the sewer district and the Cleveland Water Department
Okay.
in order to get the discount. And we go by they're qualifying for those applications to get on our program. We have found, and when we were actually qualifying folks for the program, sometimes people were on the program with the county and may not necessarily live in the home. And what I mean by that, say for instance, the property owner could have been deceased, they never went down and changed the information with the county. They still may be qualified with the county, they still may be getting a discount on their property taxes. But they're not the actual person that's living in the home.
That's interesting, because we get sent on an annual basis a renewal application for the county. So if that's happening, somebody's filling that application out and not being honest. The other question I have is that the county's homestead income line is $41,000 for 2026, and ours is at $39,000. Do we ever adjust that?
Yeah, we'll adjust it according to whatever the county's guidelines are.
If somebody needs help filling out all these applications, is there a department they can go to get assistance?
Utilities department, and they'll assist them.
Okay,
I think the most important thing that our residents should do is make sure they get qualified with Cleveland Water Department and the Northeast Ohio Sewer District. Those bills are very high, you know, and to get that discount would be helpful. And then we'll just put you on our program. And then when you qualify for the homestead program, with the city of Clayton Heights, you also get the homestead discount on your refuse bill.
so somebody that needs help, if they just they get the sewer district or the Cleveland Water discount, they have that form and they come to the utilities department, they can make the copies and scan it into the system and
do that.
everything. Cause there's an accessibility issue for some of our residents
Yes, I
that
can do that.
I'm concerned about, okay. Does anybody have any questions on that?
That's great.
All right,
Is
Thank
there- Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, is there a way is that available? I know our website is still trouble, but is there a way to add that maybe to the new resources page we have, or a way to make that more accessible?
Yeah, it's currently on the utilities website, but yeah, I guess if there's another website, we could link it to the resources website.
Yeah, I could speak with Director Shantz and see if we can add it there as well.
and you're talking about the banner that was put up for agency assistance?
Yeah.
So I don't know what you'd call it necessarily, but it would be a link to the utilities department, I'm sure, right? And it could just put an FAQ in there or something, I don't know what that would look like. Mayor Petros.
Yep.
Thank you. It's a good idea, thanks.
Get everything in one place.
Yeah, and
And another thing that we do, if a person doesn't have a computer and they need the form mailed or dropped off, we'll do that, we'll go pick it up. So we do try to assist in the way that we can.
and which phone number would they call if they needed that kind of assistance?
216-291-5995.
Anything else for Director Clinkscale? Have a nice evening, the rest of us. Thank you for
so
coming.
much.
Appreciate it. Mr. Barber.
Thank you.
Just as an introduction to Mr. Barber, the Climate and Environmental Sustainability Committee is charged in their legislation that formed the committee with giving an annual report to council. And so this is our opportunity to hear from the Climate and Environmental Sustainability Committee. Chair Catalina Wagers Vice Chair Catalina Wagers is out of town right now. And we have the distinct honor of having Mr. John Barber here, so go for it.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. We call it SESC just for ease. We met 10 times in 2025. We have 7 members on the committee, and that was recently, thanks to council's actions, bumped up to 9 members because the task in front of us is so huge. We definitely needed more resources. And the committee is fully staffed. We had 2 primary objectives this year. The first one was to advance key priorities that are outlined in our CARP, or Climate Action and Resiliency Plan, that was delivered last January. The second thing was to continue to respond to inquiries and requests from community residents, which are nonstop and do get into quite a bit of detail as well as big picture questions. The committee, though, also has several people on it who are very, very keen on dashboards and on scorecards and on metrics. And so something that we've increasingly focused on is, as progress is made on the CARP, how do we reflect that back to residents as quickly as possible so that residents can say, I'm curious to know why my street light is still unshielded or why it is still a bright white street light instead of a warmish street light and so on. And so we're increasing our focus on encouraging the city as it addresses the website to have a large number of dashboards on the progress on the CARP. In 2025, we did quite a bit of collaboration with partners. We worked with restaurants on plastic waste. We hosted tables at community events, talking primarily about waste and recycling and composting. We developed a pilot program, helped develop a pilot program for commercial business districts. We asked that the city enhance its early warning on bad air quality days so that residents would stop using two-stroke engines when we have air quality alert days, and requested that the city do also, trying to increase the actions and the demonstrations that we can do. And then finally, we had a number of walks in the parks. We had lectures at the community center on natural resources and natural history that were well attended. So we had a number of things that we did as a committee. We also set goals for 2026, including working with the city to build an energy dashboard, to work on installing electric vehicle charging infrastructures, where the mayor is taking the lead on that, discouraging the use of styrofoam, discouraging and recycling styrofoam, starting to educate residents more on the use of synthetic fertilizers on lawns, particularly phosphorus, now that we know that the Ohio EPA just flunked a neighboring city on phosphorus levels in the Doan Brook. Cataloging city equipment that's gas powered, and continuing our educational events. So in a nutshell, we're very busy across a wide variety of fronts. We have worked very closely with Councilwoman Larson to understand where council had questions, where council was looking for research and background. And we provided some of that in areas like composting, and we'll continue to do that. At the same time, we have a highly engaged and highly energized committee, which is an understatement. And committee members will also be focusing on areas and asking council if it would consider particular council activities, continuing to work with the mayor's office. I'm happy to answer any questions if I can. It's been a busy year, but we're very excited about 2026.
So one potential topic that I would like to see explored is around managing leaf collection on site, as opposed to our current method of hauling everything away and then managing it offsite. And potentially there's room to collaborate with the city on this. I think certainly as a first pass, an educational component around the benefits of composting leaf and yard waste and keeping it for your own garden. And potentially I've seen other cities that will come by, mulch the leaves, and then leave the pile of mulch that then the homeowner can use, as opposed to picking them up and carting them off. So there's a number of different ways that we could approach it, but trying to spread the good word that these leaves can be really beneficial in your own lawn, and they don't have to be treated like garbage to be hauled off. And I think that that could actually help the city in a lot of ways, as we're struggling to manage the quantity.
Sounds good. We're starting on that front. We have two activities that we're tangentially involved in. The planning department is working on revising housing inspection codes. I'm not quite sure I've got the right phrase for it, to allow what are sometimes called managed natural landscapes, so that not everything has to be mown down to half an inch, not everything has to be swept up and bagged and that sort of thing. Working with Karen Knittel in the planning department on that. And she's got a number of code changes that I think she's gonna be bringing forward. The other thing is that we're working with Parks and Rec to identify areas in the parks, starting with Cumberland. Hoping to find areas where leaves can be left whole in the parks, in certain places in the parks, and not everything has to be blown into a pile and carted off. Trying to set examples for our residents as well. Just a couple things that we've got in the early stages.
But is there other discussions of putting that in the master plan that the Parks and Rec is working on right now?
It's been proposed for the inclusion in the master plan.
Okay.
Called Grow Not Mow areas.
Okay. Any other questions? Cause I have a couple. Do you have the data that reflects how many inquiries the committee has received in the last year?
Not off the top of my head, I think we had 30 plus formal inquiries that came in through the contact us button on the website. But I think most of us have also gotten phone calls and emails from residents just saying, are you gonna address this? Are you gonna do anything about that? And the example I'll use is not surprisingly, in late September, questions about gas-powered leaf blowers emerged and became the dominant question coming into the committee. When are we gonna ban gas-powered leaf blowers in the city? And not surprisingly, those questions died down considerably with the first snowfall. But it is something we want very much to address to follow Washington DC and a number of other cities that have just said, you can't do this.
That's part of your work with the climate and resilience plan as well, right?
Yes, it is. It's
Yeah.
reflected in that. But it also falls into something else, if I might. And that is that there is a nascent movement now of property rights being, in some respects, flipped on their heads. And by that I mean, we are getting questions about light trespassing from, for example, rental homes that have the 5,000K LEDs shining into neighboring houses, saying we as those neighboring houses have property rights that say you can't trespass with your light. Very interesting perspective. I've also heard now people saying your leaf blower noise is intruding on my property and lowering my property values. So we're starting to see what was a you can't tell me what I can do and what I can't do to be that also is on the receiving end. In one of our neighboring cities now, somebody planted bamboo, running bamboo, and that's a vicious invasive. It came under a fence and it's now tied up in court that the city has to stop that neighbor from growing running bamboo because they can't keep it on their property. And it intruded on another resident's property. So the notion of we're on the receiving end, but we have rights not to be on the receiving end, I think is something we're going to do more of.
Can you keep us updated on that? Because I have that situation in my backyard. I have figured out how to make sure the bamboo stays where it's supposed to be, but it's very hard work to stay on top of it,
Yes, of course.
on a personal note. Can you talk about the air quality reporting that we hope that they will be including? And at what level the air quality gets to before it's something that needs to be reported in the comms in our e-newsletter, please?
We have two issues on air quality that we're talking about. One is that we don't believe that the city needs any more air quality monitors. You know, there have been budget items in several years on purple air quality monitors or something like that. And Northeast Ohio continually flunks on air quality per the EPA standards. Shaker Heights had their own rented air quality monitors and the readings were almost identical to the EPA reading, the EPA monitors around Northeast Ohio. We don't need to do any more testing. So we're gonna recommend that we not worry about installing more monitors, but instead say, what are the sources that we can affect, like two-cycle engines, like lawnmowers, cars? What can we affect, and how can we affect that? Idling engines, idling diesel engines is another big factor. And how do we move those levers? How can we move those levers as a community that worry so much about testing? When we have bad air quality days, we want the city to be as fast in responding as possible and also have as many actions that can be taken. The city will not use two-cycle engines and requests that residents don't use two-cycle engines. Please don't fill your car up with gas if you can avoid it during the day. Here are some places where you can go when the air is filtered, like libraries and the community center, trying to help people when the air quality is unrelentingly bad, as per the EPA standards.
That is one of the charges that this committee has as well in the founding legislation, is that they educate. And so it's been wonderful to be able to reach out to the communication director, and the mayor is very supportive of the efforts of this committee when there's questions about things that the committee believes should be public knowledge. And there will be more forthcoming opportunities to educate as well on some of these initiatives that the committee has talked about. Councilor Tosh.
So does the city have any regulations on restrictive use of, let's say, handheld gasoline blowers?
No, there isn't anything at this point, either for commercial landscapers or for individual residents. There is a noise.
There's a noise ordinance, I was gonna ask about that.
Between 7 and 7 or something.
Yeah, and
But
and I don't believe there's an enforcement mechanism for the noise ordinance, and that has historically been applied to party noise, whatever the right phrase is. But I think that that's going to get flipped on its head and be things like leaf blowers, the level of noise for leaf blowers. But I don't believe the city even has a noise meter, whatever that phrase is. I asked Director Clinkscale about it. She wasn't aware we even had one.
I've looked at that ordinance specifically and it says something around, it's like distance from the source, that it can be audibly heard. And it's something like 50 or 100 feet. And, you know, you can hear those clearly from a quarter mile down the road. So
Yes.
it is certainly out of compliance with our existing noise ordinance. I think the question is, you know, how it's enforced.
Couple things going on here. I mean, we've had residents complain that the city is out of compliance with the noise in its own use of just daily operations. And, you know, two, if we were to consider a leaf blower van of sorts, I mean, we have to make sure that we are not doing that ourselves as a city.
You definitely know when they're coming down your street to take the leaves from. Because the first thing you hear is the blower.
Yeah, but if someone's trying to, for example, clean off the splash pad in Denison, they need a leaf blower to do the job. So they pull out their leaf blower, but it's not really allowed, so, but, you know, down the street, we're prohibiting a resident from using a leaf blower. It's sort of a double-edged standard, sort of. I mean, we've gotta think very carefully. I mean, it would seem to me that if there's gonna be recommendations that we're gonna be asking our community to absorb, we should be the first people to absorbing those first.
I interviewed 5 local landscapers, so landscaping firms based in Cleveland Heights. And they all agreed that this was the direction the industry was moving, and that the existing battery-powered leaf blowers, which not only are air pollution much better for air quality, but are also much lower in noise, that they are good for 7 months a year, 8 months a year. And the fall cleanup and the spring cleanup are the times when they need the higher powered machines. And so some cities have said there will be a seasonality. And we're gonna start by saying you will not use gas powered leaf blowing equipment except for these 3 months a year when the leaves are at their heaviest. Municipalities do that and individual landscapers do that. So there's a wide range of potential solutions while the landscaping equipment industry continues to increase the battery power and the air movement power of the equipment. One of the drawbacks or one of the blowbacks that was not expected was in some cities where they've gone to battery powered equipment only now, landscapers and municipalities are running diesel trucks all the time with a big bank of battery chargers in the back of the trucks saying, we're gonna go through batteries so fast. We have to be continually charging our batteries, and to do that, we run diesel trucks. Okay, not the outcome we're looking for. So this is not necessarily straightforward, but we would be nowhere near the first to consider this or even to implement it.
Do you think there will be a recommendation coming out of the committee regarding first, second, third steps on this subject, or?
I believe there will be in 2026.
Okay. Right. Any other questions on this topic?
You're gonna cause a lot of excitement for council.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Chairman. I'll ask the committee member if you have any other that you wish to bring up this evening on this committee.
I actually wanted to ask if at a future committee meeting, we could get an update on the sewer consent decree. I know there's a lot that we are trying to tackle and I don't wanna do everything at once, but seeing as how that's such a big piece of our financial future, it would be great for us to get up to speed.
Additionally, they did a rate review, right, or a rate analysis, or it's ongoing right now?
Yes,
Is that done or?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, so, but it's in progress.
If I could suggest, I think that it might be worth council in executive session receiving an update from the law department on all litigation that we are involved with, including the current status of the partial EPA consent decree,
And Madam Chair,
similar to the one that I think that we had last year.
and I did ask the law director, a few months ago about setting up something with McMahon. So he's aware and able to make that happen.
Would that be an executive session then, President Kuda?
I don't think so, but certainly ask him, but I don't believe the type of update he was going to do was an executive session type update. It's,
Law director has that name, that person's name?
yeah, your direction.
Would you,
It's McMahon.
would you like the overview of all legal action that we're
Look, the
involved?
bottom line is, at some point, a sewer rate increase is gonna happen. I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. I think and I think that's what we need to know as far as the whole consent decree thing. It's only one component of it, but how much have we spent? What still needs to be done? It's hundreds of millions of dollars over decades, but what are we looking at, in our lifetime?
And I think in addition to that is, while we're looking at a 5-year capital plan, while we're looking at other expenses that we may need, this is a
That's
big
all.
chunk. It really has to be integrated into the overall planning. And then the other piece I was hoping for an update on, which I know the administration has in progress, is the Leopardo contract. So I was just curious when that.
The law department and I met with the president and general counsel of Leopardo last week. I expressed my strong dissatisfaction with various parts of the contract. And I look forward to having further conversations with them about it.
and it would be good to hear from Director Clinkscale about her compliance with the EPA. Cause
Oh, for the
she's,
salt, for the
she's-
snow, yeah.
no,
for the-
well, that, I wasn't thinking of that, but I'm talking about this $18 million
Oh,
sewer project, because that's all
that's the ARPA
compliance.
funds.
It's all compliance related.
You talking about an update on where she's at with the
Well, I mean,
SOS?
I think at the
SOs?
time McMahon comes in, I think it would be good to have her as part of that.
Okay.
You know, that conversation. I think it all goes together.
If I could add one more
Sure.
thing to the Leopardo update. We contracted a third party, Energility, to assist us with evaluating the work and the energy savings that Leopardo has told us we would realize. They had a walkthrough of city facilities, I believe on Thursday, if I remember correctly. It was Wednesday or Thursday of last week. And that was a productive meeting, and they're going to provide a report to us on their findings.
And is that, I presume that report will be shared with us or?
Yes, absolutely.
Is it
And
public record? or-
I would imagine that it will be whenever it becomes a report to the city. My understanding is that it becomes a public document. But that is really going to help to inform our response with Leopardo.
Did Energility look at the contract as well as the physical locations throughout the city? So they have an idea of their concerns about the contract?
I think that there are aspects of the contract that they're looking at. So for example, how savings are going to be considered. So is it the case that we are assuming that we're going to see some savings, or is it the case that those savings are going to be measured? And that is something that they're certainly looking at. But on their recent site visit, they were really just looking at the facilities and the work that was done.
This is related, but a different committee. I would be interested in the finance committee, having the new finance directors take on everything. You know, just to get some sort of Energility's, you know, what are we expecting? Thoughts on the debt service. I mean, it's one of our largest, well, aside from the sewer consent decree, but you know, it's one of our largest payments that we'll make in debt service. So that might be part of like a larger, you know, if the interest rates ever go down, how are we refinancing? But I think that's something, depending on the outcome of the Energility assessment, you know, we should also be looking at that debt and what we have left.
Counselor Posh?
When do we think we'll have sort of like a report from Energility?
I don't know, to be honest. I think that we were hoping to have something to inform our meeting with the President and General Counsel. But because of the way that things were scheduled, that was not possible. I think that there is an interest in getting something as soon as possible from them. But it seems like an important and necessary next step to us deciding how to proceed.
We have a payment that's due at the end of the year.
I don't remember the payment schedule, but we have received a number of invoices. There were 3 invoices that I directed the staff to not pay. One of those 3 invoices was paid last week as a sign of good faith to them. And I look forward to learning more about Energility's findings before making a decision on the other invoices.
That seems like good work. The way you're handling that, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Anything else from the committee? Anybody else in the room? All right, it's I'm going to go ahead and adjourn at 7:52 p.m. Thank you all for watching.